Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 336 of the podcast. Unless you happen to be joining live on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, subscribe on one or all of those platforms. Turn on your notifications to catch the show live. Today is Sunday, October 29th. No UFC this weekend, but we have plenty of other combat sports to talk about. We had Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury boxing for some reason yesterday. But more importantly, we have BKFC 53 coming up this Friday in Orlando, Florida at the Orange County Convention Center. And I have with me the headliner of that event, the BKFC Middleweight champion, also ranked contender at light heavyweight, I believe still ranked at light heavyweight, Dave Redneck Mundell. Dave, how's it going, my man?
It's going, dude. I can't complain. I'm healthy. I'm on weight. Well, close to weight, on track, I should say. Got a lot of weight to cut, but that's norm.
Are you cutting a lot of weight these days?
Always. Unfortunately, it's something I still have to do.
Because a lot of your MMA career took place at 170. Now, obviously, you're the middleweight champion, BKFC. You fought as high as 205. Is it because you've just put on more muscle to be a middleweight, or what's the weight situation?
I think it's just age, man. And I'm a fat boy at heart. I love food. I work out. I lift weights. I like doing all that shit. So it just kind of collects over the years, But obviously, when I stay disciplined and I get down to 175 at this point, 170 range, that's when I feel I'm at my peak performance, I like fighting at 85 too. I feel like I'm a little smaller than those guys, but I feel like I make up for it, with my abilities. So
now, when you fight up a weight class, do you get a little bit more relaxed in the camp? You're not as disciplined with the diet because you feel like you're not going to have to do that cut, or you still try and keep it
my
pretty healthy?
camps are all pretty consistent. That's another thing we could touch on too, because everyone thinks that I'm taking Harry lightly, which is not the case. I mean, regardless of what happens, I have a very consistent way that I train. I got a regimen that I do. I have everything's planned out, and we go through it. I just grind hard all the time. So I don't really slack off in camps. It would just make the weight cut a little bit easier because I wouldn't be going from 196 down to 175. I'd be doing 196 to 185, so it's yeah, I don't know. I think that we just would be good at either side of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously weight's never been a huge concern for you because the only blemish on your bare knuckle record was when you fought Hector Lombard. Very controversial decision, in my opinion. I may be biased. I thought you won that fight.
I hear it from everybody. Everyone thinks I won the fight. And going back to that was the fight you said that we did at 205. Now, check this out. Originally, I think we talked about this before. It was supposed to be at 185. Yeah. It went from 85 to 95. And I was like, okay. And then they called me up the week of. They're like, I think I took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. And they're like, actually, we're going to just do this at 205. He doesn't feel like cutting weight. I'm like, okay. And then the day before weigh-ins, they're like, he's sitting at 214. He just wants to weigh in at that, so don't worry about cutting weight. So we actually weighed in at 214 when we fought. I was just like, but I mean, it was a big name. It was a chance to get me on the map. I'm like, I'm going to take it regardless. And I mean, I'd already sold tickets and blasted it out there. So I kind of didn't have a pot to piss in there. I just had to do my thing.
Yeah, because then even if you say no, they're going to find some other poor bastard to put in there with Hector Lombard bare knuckle. I remember all this unfolding too, because I thought you were crazy taking that fight in the first place. And then I was like, oh no, it's going to be 95. Now it's 205. Now it's 214. And obviously, Hector Lombard is not known for hitting lightly. So the weight's never really been an issue. It's just put me in there. Whoever's in there with me, I'm fine with it. And that seems to have been your MO throughout your entire career. Did I have that right?
Absolutely. There's nobody that I wouldn't fight. It all does come down to money. The harder the fight, the more I want to get paid, as would anybody. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a fighter, and that's what I want to do. So
Yeah, for sure. And your last couple of fights, it almost seems as if you were giving opportunities to lesser known guys. I mean, the Mike Richmond fight, which was your last win back in July. I know you were calling for the Mike Perry fight. That's what you really wanted, but that didn't come together. And right away you shifted gears. Well, let's fight Mike Richmond. Why not?
It's that's where we're at right now. Like I'm trying to, farther my career. I'm trying to get my name out there. I'm trying to fight. Everyone wants to fight the best of the best or whatever. I'm not one of these guys who want to keep fighting these bums. I want somebody with some name, some notoriety, just to get me up there and make some money. It's just what it's about.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you have a light test in front of you this Friday. Doug Coltrane is undefeated in bare knuckle. I mean, he had a few speed bumps in MMA, but you said you're not taking them lightly. So what's your mentality going into this one?
I mean, I'm going in there. I guess if anything, I'm more relaxed than and not so, I don't want to say stressed, because I don't really stress about the fights either, but I just really don't see any outcome where he could be victorious. Like, he's not going to outbox me. I don't think he possesses the power to knock me out. He's going to have a hard time hitting me. He just doesn't sound too confident in himself. So I don't know. Like, I know my ability. I know what I'm capable of. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do me, and he's going to have to deal with me. So this is one of the fights that it's really just going to be fun. Like, it's a hard sparring session almost. I don't know. I just don't see him on my level. I think, and I definitely think that's going to show there. And from there, we'll just move on to the next.
So even though you're the one bringing the belt to the table, you still feel like more of the pressure is on him.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Now, how did this fight come together? Because I know with the Mike Richmond fight, he was kind of out there. He was gaining some steam in BKFC, and you kind of gave him that opportunity. How did this fight fall into your lap?
Well, let's go back to Mike real quick. Since I couldn't have the Perry fight, like I said, I wanted to fight the best. So that's like, well, he's number one. He's the hardest person in the division to fight. After him, there's nobody. So that's why I went after that fight. This one, I was actually expecting to get, I was hoping to get the Perry fight because I was told that that's what was going to happen if I knocked Richmond out, which I did. And then they told me that I'm fighting Doug, Harry, whatever. So I really think he just got a hold of it because he was one of the very few people to get up and actually call me out. Like, he's doing what I think everyone should. So props for him, props to him. But, I do think he called me out a little too soon.
We got a little farm action going on there at Camp Redneck. What's going on?
It was a fucking annoying ass rooster. He's gonna be dinner soon. You watch.
It almost seemed like he cut the crow short that second time when you looked over at him. Does he hear you preheating the oven?
Any time of day or night, that annoying bastard just fucking starts going off. It drives me crazy.
Well, that's the life of the redneck, right?
Well, some farm fresh eggs is always good.
Yeah, I'm sure that's got to help keep you healthy during the fight camp. You don't have to worry about where you're sourcing your protein from.
He's distracting me at this point.
Now he's just teasing you.
Yeah. Might be hungry. I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll just take care of that shortly here. So I had I had Chris Lytle on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, who of course is the commentator for BKFC. He had some very nice things to say about you, and he was advocating for the Mike Perry fight as well. He thinks that's going to be a fun one. It seems like they want to build up to it. Obviously, you've put together an impressive highlight reel for yourself in this sport. You're a veteran of this sport, I guess you could say, because it's only a few years old. But obviously, you've gained yourself a lot of notoriety in that time since you started fighting bare knuckle. The last time you were on the show, the plan was to eventually go back to MMA. But it seems like, since that time you become the champ, you've earned a lot of notoriety in this sport. Are you all in on bare knuckle right now, or what's your mindset like there?
I definitely found a home here. They take care of me. There's things that go on because I get it. Like they're also trying to grow the sport. They're trying to, and they need the views and stuff like that. And that's why they're using Mike. He's a big name. Everyone knows him, even though he's trash. But so they're bringing these other big guys in here. So I get it. And I am just waiting to be able to take that turn and whoop his ass.
Yeah. I'm sure you can't wait for it. So, yeah, obviously he gets notoriety, not so much for his fighting, even though he's also undefeated in bare knuckle, but because of the TMZ stuff.
Out?
Huh?
Who has he knocked out in BKFC? This huge punching guy. Who's he knocked out?
Well, I may look Rockhold.
I mean, did make him quit. Cool.
Yeah.
But did he knock him out? Did he even sit him down?
I don't think so. I think it was a standing TKO.
Yeah, I think Luke's just like, all right, I don't want to get hit in my face no more. I'm done.
It did kind of seem like that.
He was sorry. They're both sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's more the TMZ style stuff that's getting him the notoriety and getting associated with the Paul brothers and, punching old men at bars and things like that, which I know is definitely not your style. You're going to continue to speak with your performances, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's always been my biggest downfall is I'm not a shit talker. I'm trying to pick it up here and there. And like even saying that I'm going to knock Harry out is something I usually don't do just because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fight. But I do 100% believe that that's what's going to happen. So I'm just trying to express that now. I'm learning.
For sure. We have, let's see, Michael Heckert here, who's also fighting on the card, says you're the best in the game. And I think a lot of people following the sport would agree. You're probably the pound for pound best fighter in the BKFC right now. Mike's going to be making his debut on Friday on the same card. What would you say to people who are still kind of hesitant about bare knuckle? They think it's a little brutal. When they hear bare knuckle boxing, they still cringe a little bit, and they might hesitate on clicking onto the app and checking it out.
I get why people think that because you get cut more, so like it looks a little bit more bloody, but it's really not that bad. Within a week, my face is healed. I think the longest time or injuries that I have, or the biggest ones I should say, are my hands, and even then that doesn't last too long. It's less taxing on the body. I'm not sitting in there getting hit in the head hundreds of times by a glove, so I'm able to withstand it and keep going. I honestly think that my career will be longer in BKFC than if I were to go other places. So it looks a little intimidating at first, but it's really not that bad.
Yeah, Chris Lytle was making some of those points as well, and he said he wished that BKFC was around when he was younger in his career and closer to his prime, because he would have gravitated more towards the sport for that same reason. Something that I asked him, and I want to ask you as well, and I know you're going to be biased, but what's a better background to go into bare knuckle? Because we always talk about MMA, what's the best base? And a lot of people say it's wrestling. But now BKFC, we're seeing, Western style boxers go into it. We're seeing MMA fighters go into it. The MMA fighters seem to be doing better. So I know you would say that's the better base, but why?
Just mainly because with boxing, you have big gloves on. You're able to do things and catch punches that, like I'm here, I can stop a glove from coming through this little crack. But with a fist, like it's going to fit in there. So you can't catch things that you usually can with boxing. It slips in the areas a little bit easier. So I think the guys that are coming from MMA are kind of used to that. And their range for it too is probably a big thing. Having gloves on gives you maybe another inch, possibly 2, depending on, you know, how puffy they are. And you see it all the time. We have heavy sparring in practice. We'll use big gloves and shin pads or whatever. And then all of a sudden you take those same guys who are doing good, put MMA gloves on them, and all of a sudden no one's touching anybody. And whether it's because they're afraid to hurt their opponent or the range is just, now it's not there. Now I'm throwing the same punch. I'm just not quite connecting, you know? So I think the range and the ability to catch the punches completely change. So that, and I also believe when you get hit with a boxing glove, I don't want to say it's like mushy, but like there's just a bigger, and when you get hit with the MMA glove, it's only 4 ounces. So it's still a little bit more of a crack than a thud. So getting hit with a fist is kind of closer too. So, I mean, there's like 3 little things there I think play a huge role in it. And then outside of that, just grit.
Do you think that having the gloves kind of makes the boxers a little more tentative throwing the bare knuckles too, because they're used to having their hands protected?
You know, so, I mean, we all talk about that, and I try to tell people, like, oh, you don't have to throw all your shots at 100% because everything you touch somebody with is going to count now, because if we can cut them open, we can just rack up points, so to speak. But when you're in there, it's hard to not try to take someone's head off when you're throwing. You know, it's like you get in there and you just want to dump in your punches anyway. So, I mean, it could make a difference, but it hasn't for me, because I still go in there and I just still throw everything I can behind it the majority of the time, especially when I see a punch. But, you know.
Right. So you're with Shift Combat Sports, and you guys have seemed to put together a little bit of a stable of bare knuckle fighters, which is not very common. Like I said, the sport's pretty young. It's only been around since 2018 or so. Do you feel like that's made a difference in your training because you guys are actually preparing for bare knuckle, whereas other bare knuckle fighters are coming from boxing gyms or from MMA gyms where it's kind of a side project, but it seems like it's more of the focus for you guys?
I mean, yeah, that definitely has a huge role in it. When you're training for the sport you're doing is what is what you're supposed to do. If you know you're fighting for bare knuckle, you need to be training for that rule set and stuff like that. So, but we're in there still wearing boxing gloves when we move around with people. I think it really just comes down to my coach Jihad and the team that I have behind me, and that we all just grind with each other. You know, pushing every day when we're in there, and just it's unmatched.
Yeah, I'm sure it helps that you have people in the room who have done it, because a lot of people are coming into this sport, you know, maybe they're experienced in MMA, maybe they have professional boxing fights or whatever the case, but they haven't done this, and this is a different animal. So you're able to feed off of each other's experience. And I don't think there's a whole lot of gyms out there who actually have a stable of bare knuckle fighters. And the rooster agrees with me, I think.
Yep. I know there's I think some other management companies that have, you know, a lot of the fighters in the BKFC, but I don't know if they all train together like we do. So maybe that we definitely do have an advantage there. But again, you know, just the team that we have, the guys we have in there, the combat shift team, and Jihad is the coach. I mean, it's just unmatched.
Yeah. And without giving away any secrets or anything, what are you guys doing different in the training to prepare for this? Because obviously you come from MMA and you've been training MMA a long time. What's different in the training?
I mean, besides the fact that we obviously now we're not doing like wrestling and stuff, we're just training boxing. You know, it's there's not really a secret to it. We just go in there, we work, and we have, you know, our basic fundamentals that everyone's got to go through, the basic footwork and, you know, catch and counter and, you know, slips and parries and all that basic stuff. And then we get focal points that, okay, we know that this is maybe something we're having trouble with, and we just go through it. We know that that's what we're working on, and we grab somebody and we drill, you know, or in sparring when, okay, this is what I want to see more of, whether it be maybe falling outside on your punches or, you know, same side combinations or just whatever it is. There's so many different things. There's so many different schemes. And a big thing I think we've all done a lot to kind of help with maybe bare knuckle is pushing forward more. Boxing, you can kind of sit back, play, and still win, where in BKFC, it seems that they want to see people getting hunt down. So, maybe that, but basically it's just repetition and grinding.
How much does the clinch come into play? Because obviously the clinch game is different than Queensberry boxing. You're allowed to kind of hang on a little bit more and play in the clinch a little bit more, which I think probably a lot of boxers struggle with, because if they don't come from MMA, they're not used to somebody hanging on their neck and trying to punch them at the same time.
We honestly, we get into those situations a lot. We allow ourselves to do that to one another, but we don't really focus on that. It's more like if someone grabs us, like we work to get out of it right away. We don't try to grab somebody else and hold them in there, because you can, but you can't deliver a lot of power when you're tied up with somebody.
Right.
And there's ways to hit them hard from there, but it's still, if I'm too close to you, I'm smothering my punches. I want to put myself in the best position possible to hit you.
Right.
And that's just not where I want to be. So we're just focusing a lot on footwork and putting ourselves in the positions we need.
Yeah, absolutely. We've said multiple times you're not taking Doug Coltrane lightly. Obviously, when you get to the championship level, there's a lot of sacrifice that comes along with that. I saw on your Instagram recently you had to miss an event for your daughter because you have to put in the training. So talk to me a little bit about, the sacrifice to be at this level.
Especially right now, because I still work with my stepdad. It's his electrical company, and whether or not I have to anymore is kind of irrelevant. It's just a family business, so I still grind there. I still got a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Right after that, I'm going to the gym, lifting weights, working out with my personal trainer, doing whatever is the focal point is for that. And then right from there, I go to the boxing gym, or I go meet up with my mitt man and we hit mitts, So I'm literally gone from 7 o'clock in the morning to like 9:30 at night, 5 days a week. And then on Saturday, I still am gone for like 5 or 6 hours in the morning time to go train and do everything else that I need there. So the only days that I got to really spend with the family is Sunday. And then if we got stuff to do around the house, whatever maintenance needs to be done, these fucking chickens, it takes its toll. So it's just a lot of sacrifice and time. Just time away, time not being able to spend with the family. So it's what it is. I know it needs to be done. And then at the end of the day, it'll all be worth it. But,
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. And I'm sure in the long run, your family's going to appreciate it because you put in all that time to provide for them. And
yeah, they all understand. No one complains. There's times where the stress levels get a little high and stuff like that, but they get it. They know because they get to see. It's not like I'm out partying, missing, or shit. I love fishing. I barely even get to go in camps. I don't even really fish. Just stuff like that. So they see it. They appreciate it, of course, but it's just part of the game right now.
Yeah, it's part of the sacrifice of being the champ. You don't get to go fishing. So is that the plan right after the fight? You gonna go hit some fishing, spend some time with the family?
Yeah, take the tune out, go hit some island days. In the morning time, I'll go fishing before I come back and grab the other boat. Good times.
All right, so the last thing I wanted to ask you about is a couple weeks ago, fight was announced for December. Mike Perry is going to fight Eddie Alvarez. Of course, Eddie Alvarez, legend of MMA, coming over to bare knuckle. He's had one fight here, I think. What did you think about that announcement, and how do you see that fight going down?
So now you notice they're grabbing somebody who's got a smaller frame, but he can actually fight to fight Perry. Like, I feel like they keep finding the best possible ways to give him somebody with a name that just still isn't quite able to beat him. Although I think they may have fucked up this time, because I don't think Alvarez is a slouch. I think he can fight. And even though Perry's bigger, I don't know. I think this is going to be interesting, and it kind of sucks because I want it to be the one to ruin Perry. But either way, at least Perry's fighting a fighter and not some bum. But I think it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to be there in attendance, and I definitely want the winner. I don't care either way. Even if after the fight Alvarez decides to go back down to 55 and fight Palomino, then I'll still take Perry after take my turn whooping his ass too.
Okay, fair enough. I like it. I don't think anybody would deny that Eddie Alvarez can fight. They call him the Underground King because he was such a local legend when he was coming up in the MMA circuit. Similar to yourself, sold a lot of tickets. In the local area. This fight coming up is going to be fairly local for you, Orlando. I mean, you're mostly based in the Tampa Bay area, but Orlando is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from here. So do you still consider it like a hometown advantage to be fighting there?
For me, absolutely. It doesn't really matter whether we're in Orlando or Miami, pretty much anywhere in Florida. Like, everybody around this area knows who I am. They come out, they support. My fans are the best. Every time we go into, like, when I fought Ricci, we went down to Miami. I was like, man, this is the first time I'm probably going to get booed in a long time. And I went down there and they announced me and fucking the entire crowd blew up. And then they announced Ricci and it was like, I think my people were a little bit louder. I was like, damn, okay. So, it was an awesome feeling, so I know I got some diehard fans out there that come out and support, and that's awesome. So it's definitely going to be a home field advantage for me because I don't even think, I think Harry's from like North or South Carolina or something. I could be mistaken about that. It doesn't really matter, but he's not from.
You are correct.
But either way, he's unknown. He's coming to enemy territory, and he's going to wish he hadn't.
It's going to be a wake-up call. All right, we got a listener question here. Dave, how does it feel to have the BKFC make a belt for Perry versus Alvarez? If you could design the belt for them, what would be on it?
I would have skipped the last part of that, but it's bullshit, man. It's bullshit. Again, I really do appreciate the BKFC. They are a great company to fight for, and I understand they're just doing what they have to do to grow the sport, and that's cool. But still, it's bullshit. That belt should be mine. They should be fighting me, and it's going to happen. When they do, everyone's going to see why.
I would think then you would want them to design a pretty cool belt, so then that one would be on the line when you fight the winner then.
Man, I got the real belt. I don't give a shit about the King of Violence belt. That's just some makeup bullshit that help make them feel important.
Fair enough. All right. Anything else you want to get off your chest? You want to shout out any sponsors or any teammates, coaches, anything like that? The floor is yours.
I just want to thank everybody who's coming to the fight, everybody who's going to catch the fight live. I want to thank all my sponsors. There's entirely too many of you guys to list one by one, but you guys know who you are. Everyone has played a big role in getting me ready. My coach, Jihad, my Mitt man, Frankie, Chiseled Inc., my personal trainer. Like, we've created a monster, and I'm here to stay for a long time.
All right. Well, if you want to catch up with Dave and his sponsors and everything going on social media, it's at Redneck Mundell. He's been much more active on Instagram these days, so make sure you follow him.
That's will be helping me out. Give me some pointers there as well.
Great. I mean, we could all use them. I will be in attendance. I will be credentialed media for BKFC 53, so I will see you there, Dave. I'm looking forward to the show. I'm sure you're going to put on a great show as always. So if anybody else is going to be in attendance there, please feel free to come say hello, and we'll just figure out where to party afterwards.
Oh yeah. The hotel room with a whole shit ton of food.
Okay, that's the plan. That's the prep for the big fishing trip after the show. All right, Dave, I appreciate your time, my man. And I hope everything goes well for you this Friday, and I hope you get the big fights that you're looking for.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
All right, man. Till next time. Cheers, everybody. Goodbye.